Welcome to
The Savory Scoop. This is a conscious, safe space where we talk about mindset, wellness, and nutrition. Today's topic is mindfulness and meditation. Ladies?
Oh, that's my favorite topic
That's
ever.
your jam.
That's your jam. I was going to say the same thing.
Mindfulness and meditation. It's interesting. It sounds like it's two different things, but it's interconnected. And these practices have literally transformed my life. It changed the way I look at each day, each situation. It changed the way I look at people, at myself. It changed the way I approach obstacles, challenges, failures. It's been an amazing journey. I was introduced to it back in 2009. So I've heard of meditation and yoga and mindfulness. I thought that was for like people who were weak. And yes, I actually, in my 20s, I used to think like self-help books and like all these things that they talk about. I'm like, that's for people who are not happy, or that's for people who are weak. They just don't know what to do with themselves. And I know I have all the answers, right? So in your 20s, you have all the answers. Yeah. And it's interesting, like it wasn't until I was broken, I realized that I have been so ignorant. I have been sleepwalking through life. And the first time I was introduced to the idea of meditation was at a bookstore where I was trying to help myself without taking medication. And I found this article, Meditation Over Medication. And that was the beginning of my journey. Yeah.
That's so beautiful, Simi. I guess my journey with meditation and mindfulness, I guess we can actually, maybe let's share like what is it, right? I think maybe we'll start there and then I'll go into, what my journey was, because that's, many people might not know what it even is. And maybe you ladies can share as well. I think, so mindfulness is awareness, right? It's being with what is, right? With what is right here in the present moment, in the here and the now. Right. Not in the past, not in the future, but right here, because that's what exists right now.
With no judgment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. With no judgment.
Yeah. No right, no wrong, just what is.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Is there anything else you want to share about any definitions on?
No,
I think that's like, it's just awareness, presence, and yeah. So I'll just talk a bit about how I got into it. I think it was probably back in undergrad when I took a yoga course, like a semester-long course, and that's when I was first introduced to meditation. And then don't think for the rest of my undergrad career that I really used it or practiced it, but in med school, that's when I really needed it in order to study for focus. I struggle with inattention, and so I started to take like 10-minute breaks while I was studying in the med school library. I would just like go outside, sit under a tree or on a bench, set my timer for 10 or 11 minutes and just focus on my breath. I never really did guided meditations. I just kind of practiced, when my mind would wander, just like focus, just bring it back to the breath or the sensation of breathing. And then I kind of carried that inconsistently throughout my life from med school into, I actually the rest of med school, because after med school, this was when things really shifted, because I attended my first 10-day silent meditation retreat through Vipassana. It's called Vipassana course. And that was the most profound experience of my entire life so far, because I still have a lot left to go. And it just changed everything. While after that, I also I did a 7-day retreat at a monastery in California named Deer Park Monastery, where it was mostly the mindfulness aspect throughout daily life, which is actually, it's the same as meditation, right? But it can be much harder to practice, right? Because meditation, when you think of meditation, it's like, okay, it's like a set time, you're seated wherever you may be, but you're closing your eyes and you're just focusing on, whether it's sensations or sounds or some anchor, right? But mindfulness that's a whole other ball, like to have it permeate through the rest of the day, when you're washing the dishes, when you're, washing fruits, picking fruits, being outside, taking care of children, all these things. And I have so much to share, but I'll let you guys.
We're so passionate about this topic.
I am so passionate.
Absolutely. I was introduced to mindfulness and meditation when I was around 18 years old through visualization. So I started visualizing things back then. And then really, as I started to notice that, I was very sick as a child. And when I started to realize that it was all food related, I started to practice more mindful eating. And then I started yoga, and yoga really helped me to learn the foundations of meditation and of mindfulness while, choosing a topic or an intention, throughout my yoga practice, learning how to breathe, learning to the basic foundations of meditation, of being still, focusing on an anchor, like you said, just focusing on your breathing. Also through hypnobirthing. I hypnobirthed all 3 of my children. Wow. And my first daughter, I didn't even realize that I was hypnobirthing, but my husband at the time was a physician, and he was like, focus on, a vortex. And so my anchor was breathing up to 20, focusing when I had my contraction on a vortex, having that object to focus on. And I was able to naturally birth, my first daughter. And then when I realized that that's actually what I had just naturally done, I decided to immerse myself into hypnobirthing and getting the education and everything, which is a whole other topic. But that is a practice of meditation, self-hypnotism, and mindfulness. Yeah.
Wow, that's got to be an episode right there. That is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear more about that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when I first heard of meditation or yoga, there is this, we have 2 extreme pictures in our heads. Either we're thinking of, someone who's meditating, it's someone that looks like a swami sitting in a cave and just away from the world and just sitting in a cross-legged lotus pose all day long and, and isolated, right? Or the other image that comes to mind is the Lululemon, outfits and, the yoga mats. And so I love how you shared, when people hear yoga, they think it's just the mat and the postures, but how you talked about meditation and mindfulness are all practices of yoga.
Yeah.
And meditation is really for the people living in the world. It's not about isolating ourselves or going up to the Himalayas, and there's nothing wrong with that if someone wants to do that, but it's really about weaving those practices into our lives, like you were sharing about mindfulness. So the one thing I do like about meditation is that it helps you practice mindfulness throughout
I was
the day.
I was definitely thinking
For
that
sure.
earlier. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, because most of us have that, we're constantly distracted. So meditation helps us, especially like focused meditation, helps us to focus on the same object over and over and over. So we, train the mind to focus on the object that we choose to focus on. So when you were sharing washing the dishes, that's in some ways focusing on that sensation.
Exactly. Yeah. And so many thoughts I want to share, but you were mentioning about, yoga, this, that, the original purpose of yoga is to meditate. The original, like the
It's
first
unity and
position,
community.
the first pose was Sukhasana, which is easy pose,
Yes.
the seated pose. And that is for meditation. So really the yoga is to still the body in preparation for meditation, which is the ultimate goal. And yeah, there's a lot of disconnection between what yoga is today versus what it was in the past, but the ultimate goal is that.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And through being mindful while meditating, noticing those passing thoughts. Like what I like to do is to just call things what they are, while I'm meditating or, doing my yoga practice. If something passes through, I'm very visual. I have a photographic memory. So I see things like it's like a picture, a projection, almost like on my forehead. It's very bizarre. But like a thought passes, it's like a cloud passing in the sky. It's like thought. Let it pass, different things that come up, I become mindful of it. Or song, just give it like a word, let it pass. And that's a practice of mindfulness.
Yes, like not attaching to that, whatever is coming up.
Yeah.
Letting it pass.
I'm remembering in that first undergrad yoga course, that was the first time that it must have been at the end of one of the classes, and we were just lying down in Shavasana, which is corpse pose, where you're just lying down on the ground. And the instructor, had us visualize, like, our thoughts were like clouds in the sky. I know we've talked about this before, and you're just observing them. You're the observer. You're observing them pass by. You're just watching the clouds pass by.
So
right.
I love that practice.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about mindfulness being presence. It's being present in that moment. It's so important, just being very aware.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, like, we're constantly in like fight or flight mode. So there are, we can witness that shift in our mind over time with practice. But there's also changes happening in our body because our nervous system is constant. I know, Christina, you probably know more about this, but like the nervous system is constantly activated, right? When we're sitting in traffic, when we are getting overwhelmed with things to do, or we are angry, or someone gets angry at us, like we're constantly in this fight or flight mode. So the practice of meditation and mindfulness activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps with like the stress hormones that's constantly getting released in the body, which helps with preventing a lot of the chronic illnesses, right?
Absolutely. We are, there's sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and then there's parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. It's just these days, that kind of evolved so that we would run away from predators, right? And it was very useful way back in the day. But now we're in a chronic phase of fight or flight. We see threats. We see things as threats when they're not actually threats. Right. So that's how we're perceiving things. But I just wanted to mention that there have been many studies that have shown that practices of mindfulness and meditation definitely reduce stress, anxiety, worry, but also lessen chronic pain. decreases blood pressure, and also has been shown to improve compassion, improve memory, sleep, attention span, resilience, overall quality of life. I mean, it's really endless. We should do a series on this. I have
we
so
seriously
much
should.
It really is.
It's
really
phenomenal.
And mindful eating goes hand in hand with that. Because the choices that we make of the foods we eat, depending on how in tune we are with our body, affects all of those things.
Definitely.
Anxiety, depression, fight or flight mode, our stress responses, it's all related.
Yes.
Yeah, and mindful eating really is being mindful of the foods that we eat, how they affect our body. How are we eating? You know, are we sitting down when we eat? Are we using our senses when we eat? Are we smelling? Are we feeling? Are we tasting? How do we feel? Are we chewing and enjoying, you know, every flavor? Where did the food come from? Who grew it? You know, how high are the nutrients? How far did it travel? I mean, it just goes on and on, the mindfulness eating practice.
I see a wonderful workshop of mindful eating on the Savory Scoop.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, when I was I was spending 7 days at the Deer Park Monastery, we start the day in noble silence. That means you're not speaking to anyone at all, and generally no like gestures either. And then it goes through morning meditation, and then it ends at the end of breakfast. So it goes through the first meal of the day, and then with each meal of the day, once everyone has their food, they ring a bell, goes into noble silence, and we're all eating there just with our food. We're not talking, no gesturing, nothing. And it's such a different experience than what we have now. It really with the is. TV and people and all of that. It's just you and your food, the sensations of the food in your mouth, the sensations of chewing, the sensations of taste and the smell, and you know, it really is all the sense impressions that are coming to you. You're aware of all of those things. What is going on with my hearing? What am I seeing? What am I touching? What am I smelling? Right? That is right. Yeah.
That is presence and mindfulness.
Exactly.
I love that. I love both of you shared presence. And life is short, right? In the grand scheme of things, like what most of us have, like at the most 100 or 105 if we're lucky, right? And then like every day counts, but most of us, we struggle to find joy in the moment because we always want to find something exciting to do all the time, right? So we're like, okay, let me just get through all of this. Sorry, I'm so excited. Let me just get through all of this so that I can go do this exciting thing. So it's almost like you're living in the future and the present moment is constantly passing you by. So mindfulness can bring that joy every single moment of your life, regardless of what you're doing, whether we're working, whether we're hugging our kids, whether we're cooking, just about anything that we're doing.
Ladies, we have a question that's came in. So Priya would like to know, well, she's a busy mom and she feels like she has no time to meditate. So she's asking, how do you fit meditation into a busy schedule?
You don't have to have a lot of time to fit meditation into your day. It could be as simple as when you have a minute to sit down and just do some deep belly breathing. Anytime you have a moment, it could be 1 minute just to start. You could do it in the morning. I give myself, even if I don't have a lot of time, I'll give myself at least a couple of minutes to close my eyes while I'm still laying in bed and do some deep belly breathing. And then practice mindful eating.
I think also incorporating it into daily life. So if you're a busy mom, like waiting to pick your kid up, so meditating in the car, just when you arrive somewhere, you could just set a timer for a couple of minutes. You know, you're in that parking space, you know, car doors locked, just you know, close your eyes, set a timer for a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be done specific place. You know, it's really good to have that, but it can be done anywhere, really anywhere. But yeah, I think in the car would be a great place when you're parked somewhere just before or after, like leaving the grocery store or something like that. Just a minute or two, and then building a habit from there.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of you. When we're starting out, I would always recommend, at least based on my experience, to schedule some time, even if it's only 10 minutes. You know, that means waking up maybe 10 minutes earlier. It takes a lot of preparation. Maybe we have to go to bed a little bit earlier, but scheduling like 10 minutes to find that space to meditate, it does make a difference, especially in the beginning of the practice. But if you've been meditating for a while and then you're like, oh, I just don't have time, because you understand the principles or the foundation of meditation, then you can weave that into your, you know, all the examples that Debbie and Christina just shared, because we don't have to sit cross-legged and do that. But maybe like changing the schedule where we wake up 10 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier than usual would be a place to start. And looking at meditation as we don't think twice about brushing our teeth or washing our face. So knowing that it gives us the same amount of benefit, if not more, I would say, for because it really does change the way we deal with our daily lives. So that's my
I think
answer.
oftentimes people say, I don't have the time, but what that can often mean is it's not a priority.
Yeah.
Bingo.
So prioritizing even a couple of minutes a day will make a huge difference in your life.
Prioritize you.
Yes.
Choosing you. Some people say, you know, if you're a regular person, you know, meditate, for instance, like an hour a day. If you're a busy person, you need to meditate like 2 hours a day, is like what they say, because it takes you, there are just so many benefits. And you know, I've struggled to make it a habit in my life, and it's still something that's a work in progress, but it really does have to be treated as something that's non-negotiable, like brushing your teeth, something you do every day. It's got to be non-negotiable if it's something that, you know, you feel it's beneficial to your life, which I know all of us, right? It has been life-changing. Would love to talk more about this at a future episode. Yeah,
we'll definitely have workshops on meditation and mindfulness and mindful eating for sure. But yeah, this has been so great. I love talking about this topic. So thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you have any questions, you can email us at connect@thesavoryscoop.com. Or if you watch us on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. And then if you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments below. You can also find us on social media at The Savory Scoop. Just make sure that's on Facebook or Instagram.
Thanks, Lisa. So we're going to end with our special notes.
Yeah. So I think I'll go be here and now.
Oh, I like that. Practice kindness.
Love yourself. Lisa, do you have a note?
Sure. My note is take the steps every day and you'll learn to appreciate yourself.
Beautiful.
Love
it. Yeah.